Shalom and Shabbat Shalom everyone. I decided to speak about this topic briefly tonight because it was kind of suggested to me yesterday. Initially I had plans to speak about it, down the line, but I thought let's just do it now since it was a suggestion. Now when it comes to modesty in general, it is something that I really like and enjoy, and which actually makes me happy, and I could talk about it for days. But for the purpose of this video, I'm not going to talk about it for days. It's just going to be a sort of, hopefully, quick video. Islam actually strongly emphasizes the concept of modesty and hijab. In Islam, modesty is a part of the faith. Hijab as well is a lifestyle. It is a complete covering. And that's actually not to just talk about the physicality of it, but also in the way they walk and talk and how they treat others, and how they conduct themselves. And modesty is actually not a virtue just for women, but also for men. And I do want to read a verse from the Quran which tells both men and women to lower their gaze and protect, their private parts. It sort of talks more about women than men, but it does mention both. So the surah is Surah 24, verses 30 and 31. It says, "Tell the believing men to lower their gaze from looking at forbidden things and protect their private parts from, in Arabic, it's from illegal sexual acts pretty much. So it could also mean, sex outside of marriage. That is purer for them. Verily, Allah is all acquainted with what they do. And tell the believing women to lower their gaze and protect their parts and not to show off their adornment except that which is apparent." And, it does talk about it, in Arabic, pretty much showing off, the hands can be seen or the eyes, but everything else has to be pretty much covered. And to draw their veils all over, and not to reveal their adornment except to their husbands, or their fathers, or their husbands' fathers, or their sons, or their husbands' sons, or their brothers, or their brothers' sons, or their sisters' sons, or the other Muslim women, or the female slaves whom their right hands possess, or old male servants who lack vigor, or small children who have no sense of feminine sex. And let them not stamp their feet so as to reveal what they hide of their adornment. And all of you beg Allah to forgive you all, O believers, that you may be successful. Now, there are some rulings within Islam about modesty, and I'm not going to really, talk about all of them, but I do want to just bring out some rulings which are sort of important. Now, in Islam, what a man and woman, of course, wear can't actually show the shape of their body at all, like period. So they're not really supposed to be wearing jeans or tight clothing. Now, that is not to say that some, especially Muslim women, don't wear it, because there are some Muslim women who do wear the hijab or the head covering and, still wear very tight jeans, but they're not really supposed to, and it's supposed to be very loose so as to not show the figure. And there is another Quran verse, and this is the last one I'm going to read, which sort of does specify that you are supposed to wear something loose. And it is from Surah 33, and the verse is 59. It says, "O Prophet, tell your wives and your daughters and the women of the believers to draw their cloaks all over their bodies. That will be better, that they should be known as free, respectable women, so as not to be annoyed. And Allah is ever oft forgiving, most merciful." Now, in this verse, the Arabic word that's used is jalabib, and jalabib is, how do I put this? In Arabic, it means sort of like a loose outer garment, so as not to, how do I put this? So as to not show your figure. And it's pretty much saying in Arabic that you are to be completely screened, so only your eyes are showing pretty much, and and if possible, you know, just the one eye, if that makes sense, in terms of, so you see sort of where you're going, if that kind of makes sense. But everything else is to be covered, and it has to be loose so as to not show the figure. Another ruling is that the clothes you're wearing aren't supposed to be see-through, and there are many Muslim women who actually do wear see-through things, and then you kind of have to, or the men have to sort of cover their eyes and think, what on earth are you wearing? And for both men and women, the thing that you are wearing or choose to wear has to cover everything, except you're allowed to show, like I said, I think briefly, your hands and your feet. And in some instances, you know, when it comes to fundamental Muslims, the radicals, they also believe that the face should be covered because it is the beauty of the woman. And that's why you will see most Salafi women or fundamental Muslim women wear the niqab and burqas, because they're covering all of their beauty. And you'll see some of them also wearing gloves because they don't want to show their hands as well. So yes, they're very, very modest in that sense. And I really have to tell you that it is very hot, and it gets very hot under that niqab, so I really don't know how they do it on a daily basis. I suppose they get used to it. There was one point in my life where I used to look at the fundamental radical Muslim women, the Salafis, and think there was one point where I looked at them and thought, you know what, that is, I don't even know why I even thought that, but I thought there was just something, you know, even back then, something quite beautiful about that. And no, I never wore the niqab out. I never had plans to, but there was one woman in particular that I looked at that point in time, and I thought, wow, like, she's covering everything for God, you know, for Allah, but thinking, you know, for God. And I looked over at my best friend, and it's like she kind of knew what I was thinking, and she's like, no. Because I was kind of joking about it with her, and I was like, oh, imagine, you know, I start wearing the niqab. And so she kind of knew what I was thinking, and she's like, no, like, don't go there. And so, yeah, so there are obviously, you know, radical Salafi Muslims, both male and female, who go that far in concealing that beauty and concealing, you know, what the Father gave them, you know. And so yeah, that's why you will see some women wearing the niqab, because they are concealing everything and just showing their husbands, you know, their true beauty. Now, there are some rulings that are sort of controversial, because you will have some Muslim women who don't agree with it and continue to do it despite the rulings. And they are of perfume and makeup. Now, women are actually not allowed to wear or put on perfumes or wear makeup except for their husbands. And it is said that if a Muslim woman goes to the mosque, she is not allowed to wear the perfume, and if she does, her prayers aren't actually accepted. And obviously, you know, we see even now that Muslim women still wear makeup, they wear perfume, and they've got their own opinions about it, but yeah, you're not really supposed to accept, you know, at home for your husband. Now, I think with some of these rulings, you know, and the way Muslim women are dressing, and, you know, with them wearing the hijab or the head covering, you know, there's some misconceptions. And I think most people in the West think, you know, they see a Muslim woman with a hijab, and especially if she's dressed, you know, wearing an abaya or a jilbab, you know, if she's a full-on practicing Muslim, and think, you know, she's oppressed or she has no freedom. And how do I put this now? And look, there are some Muslim families who actually do force the hijab on their daughters. That is not, you know, I'm not gonna... They do. There's a lot of families that do force it. And that is because in Islam, the Muslim woman or the girl is actually supposed to start wearing the hijab. It is very compulsory that she wear the hijab once she gets her period. So if, for instance, you know, the girl gets her period at the age 9 or 10 or 11, she is supposed to start wearing the hijab then. And so I think that's why many, you know, Muslim families, you know, especially maybe their dads, force it upon them, because Islam commands it. But however, I do know many Muslim women who, you know, including my family members, that are wearing it. Wear it because they want to please God. And of course for modesty reasons, but they do it because they find it beautiful and are willingly wearing it. And I know, and I speak from experience, because I used to wear it because I wanted to, because I found it quite beautiful. And, you know, my own family back then was saying, you know, take that off. And I didn't, because I wanted to wear it. So I think when, you know, if you hear, you know, some Muslim women saying, you know, I'm not forced to wear it, I choose to wear it, believe them. If you're going to believe anything from them, believe that, because that, I think it's true. And, you know, most Muslim women do wear it because they want to. You know, it's the choice that they made. And, you know, I think, look, speaking about oppression, and here I go again, as much as I may actually offend a lot of people by saying this, and I think it's what I do best, offending and insulting people, but I don't mean that in a bad way, it's just the way I say some things can be very insulting and offensive. But, you know, speaking about oppression, I think that, you know, women who walk around, especially in this day and age, especially with what is going on in, you know, in this world, I think the women who are oppressed the most are the women who are walking around half naked, and, you know, so to say, and let's just leave it at half naked. I think you can use your imagination, but, you know, especially, you know, in this time, I think, to me, they are the ones that are, you know, sort of oppressed. I think, you know, they're walking around showing off everything to everyone, you know. I think they're, you know, everyone gets to see what, you know, the Father gave them. Like, they're not hiding anything. There's nothing left to really see, because they're showing everything to everyone. And, you know, and as offensive and horrible as I'm gonna sound saying it, I think, you know, it's true. It's kind of, they're kind of giving it away for free. And I think, you know, truly the real freedom is that a modest woman has that freedom to choose, you know, who she wishes to give the gift of herself to. You know, it's saying, you know, what belongs to me, and, you know, only I get to choose who I share that with and who gets to see me. And, you know, in my opinion, obviously it is the husband and not the whole entire world. And, you know, I believe that to be true, and it's, it's the way I choose to live my life as well. And, you know, I think as believing women, or believers in general, but, you know, as believing women, it is better to be recognized as holy and as good and as someone who actually respects themselves, you know, rather than a sex object or someone who's kind of making themselves, you know, seem cheap, if I can put it that way. You know, I think as believers, when we, you know, wake up in the morning, you know, as we're getting dressed, when we look in the mirror, I think we need to always, make sure that how we are as a person and how we dress is really pleasing to the Father, and that He's happy with us, you know, as opposed to getting dressed and impressing others with, you know, how we choose to dress. And I think I want to do a, you know, separate video and really talk about modesty in general a bit more, you know, especially when it comes to the believing women and men, because I think that is something that is really important. And we are, you know, as I said a number of times, we are called to be, you know, holy and to live, you know, a set apart life. And I think, you know, modesty in general is very important and is something that I want to go into a bit more depth. I think this video was just a bit, you know, something to briefly speak about when it comes to modesty in Islam, and I could, you know, go into a bit more detail even with that, but I sort of just wanted to make a brief video. And yeah, so I think that's it from me at this time. But like I said, I do want to do another video, a separate video, speaking about modesty in general, head coverings, when it comes to, you know, the believing women and men, because I think that is something very important. So yeah, thank you for watching, and until next time, Shabbat Shalom.